Hi, welcome, Allie. This is the first live I've ever started that I have someone already on here. That's cool. Welcome. Good morning, good evening. This is live Q&A, episode 7. Welcome to everyone. I'm gonna pick up on the last video. I had a question asked. Welcome, Leonel. Welcome, Jared. Good morning. On my last video, I had a comment that was left. Welcome, Jose. Good to see you again. Good afternoon, Paul. Welcome. Fine Line, welcome back. Amelia, welcome back. Hello. Good afternoon. So, Miss, I don't know if it's Rogette, I'm sorry about the pronunciation. Welcome. Good evening. So my last comment on my last video was a young lady asking about freedom, and I forget her name. I forget who you were, so I apologize. But her question was, what is freedom? And there's different levels of freedom. Let's put it that way. There's the physical freedom in the material world. Some people want that. Some people pursue that. Some people will fight and die for that. There is, I'd say, 2 other kinds of freedoms. I mean, many more, but I'm trying to summarize them. And the other one is spiritual freedom, which is what a lot of us are seeking because we're becoming unfulfilled through the physical freedom, or through the physical world. So it's bringing us into spirituality, or looking beyond this picture, this experience, this the physicality of this experience. And that's a different type of freedom in itself. That's basically transcending reality. When you start making connections that you are the universe, you are God, you are these entities that have been left behind throughout history. And the reason they've been left behind is because you shaped them. They came from one mind. And that's what we all are, as this collective is one mind, sharing its own journey. So we're not he and we're not she. We're all of them. You've done all of this magnificently. And you're playing all the parts simultaneously. That's why everything is connected to the next thing, and everything's connected as one. It's all the same being. It's all the same force, if you will, driving. But beyond name, beyond shape, it's nothing, but it's everything. Excuse me for 1 second. So yeah, spiritual freedom is a different freedom in itself. You have physical freedom, and then you have spiritual freedom. And then you have the beyond. And that's why I say I'm trying to summarize them in a total of 3. So you have physical freedom of the physical world, you have spiritual freedom of what's beyond this physical world. And then you have the disappearance, the complete disappearance of any freedom at all, any concept of freedom. Which may not make sense to the mind, but that is the ultimate freedom. No concept of freedom at all, because back to the word concept, you realize this freedom even this freedom, I should say, of the spiritual freedom, is still somewhat limited. And that's what we do. We hit the wall with the physical, and then we go into the spiritual, and then we hit that wall. And then you must go beyond, the beyond. That's what Buddha called it. Into the beyond, which is into your own self, into your own mind. Start unraveling all concepts you know, such as the world, such as the who, the where, and the what. Start picking these apart. Who are you? Where are you? Are you sure this is where you are? Are you sure this is who you are? Good afternoon, Bob. Welcome back. Welcome. Since I don't have any questions, I will say, if these videos do resonate, please feel free to share them on your page. Help me get this platform out so I can reach more people, more viewers, get more engagement. And I'll also leave the donation link in the comments, as always, for anyone who wants to donate. Hello. Welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, whichever you prefer. Any questions, topics, anything? Hello, Brenda. Welcome. Subscriber says, have you thought of going on podcasts like Tinfoil Hat? I've honestly never heard of that podcast, and I think I've only been on like 2 podcasts in my whole lifetime. One was with Todd Medina, and another was with, well, no, I've done more than 2 actually, but yeah, Todd Medina is the first person that comes to mind that I was on a podcast with. I haven't done one recently in a long time. I do enjoy them though, actually. That's actually a good idea from myself. Thank you. And the one podcast it's been my dream, it still is my dream to go on, is Joe Rogan podcast. One reason being is I've grown up watching his podcasts, and through my awakening, I've continued watching and listening, and I feel I could greatly answer a lot of his questions. He's also big into psychedelics, which I'm sure me and him could have some interesting conversation about. And I'm sure we would both benefit. I'm sure people watching would benefit. But that's my dream, to be on a Joe Rogan podcast, honestly. If anyone has his contact information, feel free, just give him a call for me. Let him know I'm trying to reach him. Reincarnation, okay. That's a good topic. So reincarnation, what's reincarnation? Through my perception, reincarnation is not the same person being recycled. Is not you as the name being stuck or recycled over and over and over and over. Reincarnation is unhealed and unfinished business, is what I would say it is. So let's say the grandfather. You have a grandfather, you have a father, and you have a son. That's 3 generations. The grandfather, let's just say, metaphorically, okay, is abused physically, mentally, and emotionally. If that grandfather doesn't, before he has kids, or it doesn't even have to be before, but in his lifetime, realize before it's too late and heal what was done to him through understanding, you pass this down, you communicate to the next through the same way, because not that it was your fault, but we're innate creatures. What you are shown becomes normal, becomes reality. So if that's how your parents, your leaders, your parents are the people you look up to, if that's how they're communicating with you, that's all you know is communication. And again, I'm not saying we can't grow and evolve, and it's not, but let's just say the grandfather doesn't heal, doesn't look into that, and he just continues to say, that's normal, stop being a wimp. And so he passes this, and he communicates this way to his son, which is the father. Now, the father may not repeat as much, because maybe through some things the father has healed some, right? But he's still repeating the form of communication, the abuse. Maybe not as severe, maybe not to the extent, but it repeats. And so what happens is, when the grandfather passes away, he's no longer here, he's no longer visible, yet did he actually leave or go anywhere? He is alive through the father. The same trauma, the same unhealed, unfinished business is still here, present. And you have to look into what makes us our name. It's our personality. And so essentially the father becomes the grandfather. You've taken on his personality. And I'm not saying in every aspect per se, but that's my form, or my idea of reincarnation. The being has not left, has not gone. The unfinished business, the trauma, is still here through the father. The father becomes the grandfather. It's said we become our parents, and we do. We become our parents because, again, we're innate creatures. What we see is what we learn. You see your parents doing that, you do it too. It's natural, it's normal. But that's where we can evolve. As we grow up and become more conscious, we can evolve and begin to understand, turn that anger into compassion, because that's what it is. It's anger. So I'll continue on with this real quick, and I'll try and wrap it up, because I know I still have more questions. So the father passes down some to the son, but the son, before he has kids, stops. He's always been angry at the father, but for what he's done, but he has the consciousness, the capability to look within himself. Why is this happening? Why? Why is this happening, and looks into the father's childhood. Point is the child heals or begins to understand and unravel the trauma, the repeating cycle, the repeating pain that has reincarnated through you becoming your parents, and then you becoming your parents, and then you becoming your parents. And the cycle never ends. That's reincarnation. So when you can heal trauma, family trauma or bloodline trauma, it's you have no idea how huge that is, how powerful that is, and how proud of yourself you should be, because there's no words for it. You're shattering a cycle, a reincarnating cycle, or repetitive cycle, if you will, that just keeps repeating through you and you and you and you and you, because it's always you. And that's what happens. You become your parents. But if you have anger toward your parents, look into their childhood. How are they communicated to? How are they treated? How did their parents make them feel? Were they validated? Were they heard? Were they made to feel special? These are the things you have to go into. I can even speak for myself. I have been my father from 13 to maybe 19, 20 years old. That's when my awakening began. Excuse my language, but people back then, 13 through 20, would consider me an asshole. When you hear people speak about my dad, that's how they describe him. I was my father, but I wasn't aware of it. I was pissed at the whole world, but behind that was vulnerability, pain, rejection, fear. And when you're able to look into why this is, by going back into your own fathers, you understand that anger is softened and turned into compassion, because this is where you understand you are your father, which means you and him have both been that terrified little boy, cowering to who? His own father. So your father has been the same kid that you were when you were afraid. And just through understanding that, it softens your anger. It softens, it heals, because you understand. You're not looking to place blame anymore. You're looking to heal. And you can heal by understanding. These feelings we feel are universal. So, yeah, kids may feel that type of pain when they're in fear of their parents, or, shriveled up in a corner, scared of their parents. They may feel that in different degrees, but the feeling is universal. It's the same. And that's how we connect, through the heart. That's how you can understand and begin to have compassion for my father, your father. That's what allowed me to transform this anger I had toward him all my life into self-love, knowing my worth. And I finally have been able to tell him, this is your loss. You not seeing me for who I am my whole life, and me trying to be you and look up to you, it was your loss. You missed out on who I am. And before that, it was always me trying to prove myself to everyone, because he rejected me. So, through understanding compassion, it softens any anger. But the Buddha once said, Understanding is the highest form of knowledge. And right he was. Because like I said, understanding shatters any anger you'll ever have to your parents. When you fully understand, you were that little girl or that little boy. They're doing this to you because it was done to them, and just by you realizing they didn't know any better. Yes, you can say, but they could have healed it, but they could have done this, but you're doing it now. You are them. And look at you now. You've broken that cycle. Reincarnation is no more. Juan, I like your question. What are your beliefs? Or are beliefs entirely based on the self? I like your question. And your answer. Osho once said, beliefs are a cheap disguise to fool ourselves, or something like that. But belief is our way of fooling ourselves. And so, yeah, I remain shapeless, as Muji would say. Remain shapeless. No belief, no premise on what this is, no thought, because the thought will evade you. You don't exist in the thought. You're what is producing thought, word, but you're not the word. And that's what the human being has done. It's fallen into the word. That's what we're seeing. Not through these eyes, but this one. Brenda says, what are your thoughts on astrology? So I've never looked too much into the stars. I don't really follow, like a lot of people message me sometimes asking me if I feel the energy from, and forgive me because I'm not trying to make fun of anyone, but I'm trying to paraphrase because again, I don't know these terms. I don't believe in them, if you will, so I don't know these terms, but so I'm trying to paraphrase. But some people will message me saying, are you feeling this intense energy from Saturn because the moon's in this house and here? And I'm like, no, I don't feel these things. I don't pay attention to what house or what planet's in what house and what star is here and where the sun is. It's not my concern. It's not my focus. I've never dove into astrology. I do believe, however, that everything is written in the stars per se. Everything is already set. But yeah, once again, I don't even think the universe that we've been taught in school is where we are. Nor do I think we're anywhere. But you see, how do you ease someone into that? You don't, because that's where you start sounding crazy. You just jump from one extreme to the next. You know, there's no easy way to ease someone there. So that's why you have to kind of slowly start diving into government conspiracies and something. What government conspiracies are meant to do is show you that there's a problem with this world, with this experience. It's not what you thought it is. It's not what you thought it would be or should be. And that's where you can begin to dive deeper into what this experience is, what this place is, and who you are. But we forget and push aside the who you are part because we assume we know. And once you've learned something, you don't revisit it, you already learned it, so you push it aside. And you say, it's simple, I know who I am, that's foolish. I'm interested in who they are, the government. I want to help people. And again, there's good intention behind these people trying to fight the government, but the best analogy I have is the Matrix trilogy of 1, 2, and 3. Smith and Neo, the same person fighting themselves, and you can take that as the people versus the government. The fight only exists because you believe in something that is not there. And again, there's no easy way to say that. There's nothing in a child's closet that doesn't keep them from feeling that valid fear. You can tell them 1,000,000 times there's nothing in there. You can even show them by opening. But as soon as you leave, it begins again. That's how powerful the mind is, and that's what the adult has done. It's taken that monster in its closet and it's put it into the government. It's put it into the system that's driving this experience, or so you think. Because again, you're basing that belief on who you think you are. You think they're driving what controls this. But again, they're all Freemasons, and they acknowledge there's only one architect here, and they know it's not them. It's not who they are. They're not the ones controlling anything here. That's the Freemasons' greatest secret. It's all you. You're the only one. But again, you are the paradox. While it's all you, it's not. You have no control over anything here. But again, it's the paradox. You don't need any control. Control is a belief, a concept, established from the separate entity that has spoken all the words, including control. The being that speaks doesn't exist, nor do the words. Or I shouldn't say the being, the person. Person doesn't exist. The being exists, or beingness. Stockton hippie thoughts on magic mushrooms. Magic mushrooms are absolutely amazing. They're the best form of psychedelics, in my opinion. So my breakthrough was so my breakthrough was on magic mushrooms. That's how I've been able to make all these videos. You know, I get asked that question a lot too. How are you able to make all these videos or know all this stuff? And I tell them it's not a knowing, it's an unknowing, which is the hardest thing you can do. That's why Buddha said, my teaching is not for those seeking an accumulation of knowledge. Because in spirituality, you don't come here to learn everything and accumulate knowledge. You're here because you are ready to check out, if you will. And that's one of Rumi's analogies. Spirituality is full of window shoppers, is what Rumi says. And only a few are actually serious in checking out. But that's what spirituality is about. But yeah, magic mushrooms are wonderful. I would just recommend never doing them alone. I mean, I have, but I don't recommend it unless, you yourself feel you're that experienced or you're okay, you know. But if it's your first time, absolutely not. You have to have somebody with you that knows magic mushrooms. So make sure you hear me out on that. Because if you take magic mushrooms with somebody who doesn't know them, when you tell them you're dying, they're going to call you an ambulance, and then you're going to get Baker acted and wake up in the hospital in the intense unit. So you have to make sure you're with someone who's familiar with the process and someone you trust. That is another huge thing, because you will be out of your body and out of your mind. You will be in the most vulnerable state with yourself that you have ever been. So yes, trust is a huge deal in who you do this in front of. Juan says, ultimately, what do you think we are here on Earth for? So, I have to break that down a little bit, because I don't think we're on Earth, and I don't think we're in a place, but I get your question. What's the meaning? What's the purpose? Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Oh yeah, there you go. So yeah, I get what you mean. What do you think we're here on Earth for? Like the meaning, the purpose. So that's actually an interesting question. It's so God's greatest secret basically is the final secret God has with itself is you are the only one here, and you always have been. You are it. I am that I am. You are the entirety. There's nothing else here. So what else is there to do? So why are we here? I would say this is God's ultimate display of love for itself. We gift our children bikes and toys, and we we have this sense of joy just watching them play with that toy or have fun and enjoy playing with that toy, or riding their bike and screaming down the street and riding and having a good time. You as a parent have a satisfaction, a joy, a love that can't even be described through words. My words will fail. But that feeling you have watching your child play, have fun, be innocent, love, enjoy, that is a taste of God's love and joy right now in this moment. The beingness, not doing, just being anything at all. Because like Alan Watts says, it'd be so much easier to be nothing at all. But God loves itself so much, it's gifted this to itself, to you. And that's why there's so much murder and chaos and arguing and fighting, because it's obvious we have forgotten who we are. Because again, once you know who you are, there's no fight here. There's no enemy. You have no one to point the finger at anymore. There is no government. It's you. And again, that's what makes this teaching of non-duality so hard for people to grasp. It leaves you with nowhere to scramble, nowhere to run, no place to distract yourself from. It leaves you right now facing yourself. Not blaming, not diverting the attention from yourself by saying it's them, they're doing this to me, they want to control me, they want to enslave me. Those fingers will all come back to yourself. You are the man behind the mirror. You are the person you're waiting to be revealed here. You are what's behind it all. And you're waiting and waiting and waiting for that final moment, or for that realization, or for that news station to release something huge, or your phone to bring you something. But there's nothing coming. as I've said, even when they share that we've made contact or we have another life form visit us here, this will do nothing. This will do nothing because, again, you look at the alien every morning in the mirror. You are unknown to yourself. You look at the alien every morning, you see yourself in that mirror. So how could you recognize the alien coming to visit you from the sky? You wouldn't. You wouldn't recognize the alien as yourself because you are foreign, unknown to yourself. Their message would most likely be, as an advanced civilization, we're you. We're one and the same. But again, this does nothing because I can tell you that we're one and the same. If you're not ready to put your belief aside, if it infringes too much on your comfort, on the dream, on the Maya, the illusion, there's nothing anybody can say. There's nothing anyone can show you, even another life form. It does nothing. It changes nothing. You have to face yourself, inevitably. That's what every one of us is waiting on. You are the man in the sky. Juan, um, Juan said, so there's no point in accumulating knowledge. I won't say that. I won't say that. There's people who, again, it's perception. There are people who find knowledge very valuable. And again, there are people who would argue with me and say, you sound like an idiot for even saying knowledge is invaluable. But again, this is a Zen philosophy. This is a non-dual philosophy. It's the purification of the mind, the emptying of the mind, not the collecting of the mind or the gathering of the mind. It's the complete purification. And one of the examples they use is when water is disturbed, there's no reflection to be seen. But when you're calm and you sit, there's reflection, there's a picture to be seen. It's the same thing. So Gabriella, you're a terribly false thing in a terribly real thing in a terribly false world. That quote from Alice in Wonderland would apply to your question, I would say. You're a terribly real thing in a terribly false world. And if the world is false, the person existent in that world is also false. So it's not that they don't exist, but every incarnation is this one. If you'll excuse me, I have to run to the bathroom. I'm just going to leave this on, so I understand if anyone leaves, but I'm going to be a few minutes, so give me 1 second. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everyone. Thank you everyone for waiting. Sorry. Sorry. Oops. Oh, wow. Well, now I feel like I have to delete this thing now. Oh my god. No. No, no, no. You gotta be kidding me. Alright. Wow. The government is that they're bad, will always be bad, they self perfect. So Drinkwater said, the only lesson I learned from the government is that they are bad and will always be bad. They sell fear and make profit from our fear. So you need to just realize the government is always an algorithm. It repeats. It doesn't change. It's always the same thing. In one form or another, there's always a system. Always. So the trauma that's passed down is real because the feeling, the emotion doesn't go away. So by not healing that, you're passing the emotion, the feeling that you wanted to push aside your whole life into the next incarnation, which is your son. But again, it's still you. So it's not that they're not real. They're not real as the name, the title, the characteristics, the description of them is not real. The beingness is real. It's very hard to put into words because there are no words. But no, the feeling, the emotion is real. But that's why he says you're a terribly real thing in a terribly false world. And that's why I believe you're so disturbed. That's what the caterpillar says to Alice. So Allie, nothing can matter or everything can matter. It's all perception. Perception is reality. It can be whatever you want it to be, as bright or as dark as you make. But abundance, bliss, peace, joy, it's here. Everything we're searching for, here, right here. Everything we're waiting for, it's right here. It's waiting for us. It's looking us in the face everywhere we go. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to the questions. I'm really behind because I can't just answer these questions and few words. These are in-depth questions. So I'm trying to keep up. I'm sorry. Christos Kamado says, is the government actually bad? I think they're just trying to teach us a lesson. Perception is everything. There are people who think the government are saving us, are our saviors, are our heroes. And then, again, on the contrary, you have two sides to your brain, so always remember, there will always be two sides. People will always see it this way and that way. Perception is everything. There are people who think, but again, you have to question, why aren't we all seeing the obvious? It's so obvious. The government's trying to kill us. They're monsters. Why aren't we all seeing it? But there can be government, there can be monsters, there can be heroes. We decide, we create that. One perception I have of government, and again, this is just to give people an alternative perspective. I'm not telling anyone how to think or what to believe. But I compare the government a lot similar to Thanos. If you're familiar with the Avengers series, which I'm sure a lot of people here are, I mean, it's one of the most watched, one of the most sold out movies. But Thanos from the Avengers, he kills half the planet of people, of population, but his defense is its salvation. And if you look up salvation, it's to prevent from suffering. So by eliminating half the population, the other half would thrive. So he would say, oh, they went to bed with full stomachs every night. You know, they were full and happier and more free. There's more room. There's more resources. So in his mind, in his intention, he is doing a good thing that no one else has the will to do. And of course, people tell him, you're crazy, you're this, you're that. But in his mind, he's doing what no one else has the will to do. He has a good intention. He doesn't want people to suffer. So let's just get it over with. You're going to slowly starve and die to death inevitably. So kills half the planet instantly, boom. And the other half thrives. His intention is good. But again, you could say the killing, not so good. It's all perception. And then again, there's some people who even think he's completely bad. He's completely insane. But the government's no different. It can be either side. But as I've said in prior videos, the government is humanity's best friend right now, because they're what's keeping the human being alive, per se. No, we're not human. We're veiled as humans. We've veiled ourselves as human because we believe ourselves to be. We've said it enough times, and now it's common sense. You couldn't be anything but. Which is why when someone says something other than, we think they're insane. They've lost their mind. But indeed they have. They've awakened from the person, from the thing they've been trying to be their whole life, which is human. You are not human. You never have been. The ancestors knew that. That's why they were so in sync with this experience, with nature, with everything, with everyone. There was no currency system. There was no value system. But the government is slowly and delicately disclosing what they can to the people. As I said, you can't just rip the Band-Aid off. You have to do it in layers, in pieces, which is what has been happening over the last 4 or 5 years, but more so in the last 2, through the pandemic. We think it's the government working against us, but they're slowly trying to disclose to us through this pandemic that we're not human beings. But again, how do you freaking do that without shattering people's dreams of who they are, without making them want to literally walk in front of a car because they felt their whole life is a lie? If you had that job, it would be hard. You'd have to really think about how to do this and psychologically not mess up a lot of people. So it's not an easy task. It's not an easy job. Government already knows who the alien is. They know we've hit the wall in space. They know there's nowhere to go. They know this experience isn't physical. The universe isn't physical. The model that they've taught us and our children isn't real. They know these things, but they are slowly disclosing it to the people. And by doing so, they're saving us. They're saving us a lot of insanity. As I said, if it were to be disclosed tomorrow, you would suddenly hear cars crashing and planes falling and people just dropping. It would be too much. But once you start talking about there is no human being, you have to start talking about there is no artificial intelligence. This intelligence is the very same being. It's not human, it's not artificial. It's not man, it's not woman. So my theory of that, Christos, like you said, like I should be able to, since nothing's physical, to just spawn a pyramid here, like I talked about. Um, my theory is a lot of the old civilizations, like that, the ones that we're trying to remember, like the ones from Egypt and all that, they had the ability to do just that, to telepathically communicate and move things without touching them with their mind, because they had the knowledge that they were in a video game. We have forgotten that we're in a game. And like I said, this is the start of virtual reality. This is just the tip of the iceberg. When people start saying it feels so real, the next step is you forgetting you're in a game, or you confusing reality and the game. That's the next step. And then the very next step is you ultimately forgetting you're in a game. Similar to what we're doing now. We're only looping back around to realize and answer all of our questions. We want to know what, if woman was created from man and Adam and Eve, why did they both have belly buttons? Well, you're about to find that out, because we're creating the human race right before our very eyes. So you'll soon have the answer to why they both have belly buttons. You'll soon have the answer to why or how we built the pyramids. What happened to all these civilizations that just dropped off? You'll soon have that answer too. Because time doesn't exist, and we're bringing all places to one presence. And that's when you start entering the quantum realm, which is essentially non-duality. You're in numerous places governing numerous vessels at one time, but it's all one presence. But that's my theory, again, and so, this is not facts, this is not, things I can prove in a book or textbook, but I'm just saying, I feel like that's what the next step is, and through virtual reality, we're going to start developing more intense ways to experience, more like I said, like telepathy and moving things with your mind is the next step in virtual reality. And then the next thing is you're creating things, you're creating stuff you had no knowledge you could do. And you're forgetting you're in a game. You're Alice essentially in a world of your own. And I compare it to Minecraft, because in Minecraft you can create whatever you want out of whatever material you want. And I was watching one of my nieces play that game several years back, and it hit me. I was like, how could Egypt have buildings full of solid gold? Really think about that. Not only how much that weighs, but where the hell did they get the resources? Where did they get the gold? How, and again, how did they construct these things so perfectly, more perfect than we can ever construct things today? And that's where I tell people we need to stop thinking in physical terms. We're still thinking in terms of a hammer and a chisel. And when we can't put it together in a physical sense, we say that aliens helped them, that UFOs helped them. Because again, alien work is unknown work, so all we're saying is it's unknown to us. But my belief is it's all digital. How else could you get it perfect? How else could you sculpt it in ways that we don't have today? It's digital, but we're still thinking in terms of physicality. Hammer and chisel, UFOs hovering down and dropping them. No. This is digital, and in 2022, we're only going to get more digital. 2022, the enslavement is digital. But it's you enslaving yourself. Has nothing to do with artificial intelligence, has nothing to do with virtual reality. Virtual reality is here. Artificial intelligence is here. We're not creating anything new. We're answering every one of our questions about ourselves. We're unmasking ourselves. You can't still be human after you've seen what you've seen in the next 2 years. You can't be human anymore. You'll have seen too much. That unmasks you from who you thought you were. We control the game, yes and no. That's the paradox. Again, we are the paradox. We can control the game, but we can't. And especially, like, going back to the word control, our concept of control, our idea of control is a made-up word through the sound spell of the word control. But that doesn't exist. The word doesn't exist. The language doesn't exist. The thought doesn't exist. So where does control exist? So that's what I mean. You do, but you don't. And there's a reason the you, which is this, has made it that way. You are 2 steps ahead of yourself. You are in control, but you're not. You're 2 steps ahead of yourself. Because how boring would it be if you could predict tomorrow? If you knew everything that would happen? If you knew a car was going to cut out in front of you? If you knew something was going to happen, or this was going to happen, or that was going to happen, or this conversation was going to be had? Or when I greeted you, I was going to say, hey, what's up, man? If everything was predictable, you would be trapped here. You would be enslaved. You would want out immediately. But again, you're always 2 steps ahead of yourself. Not this self, but the self. It's more intelligent than we can fathom. And that's why the only men who have been able to speak on non-duality are men who have lost their mind. Not in a straitjacket sense of losing their mind. Lost their mind as in purified it. Brought it back to its innocence, back to simplicity. Teachings. I'm gonna wrap up this video. I apologize if I did not get to your question. Had a little more than normal so far, so that's good. At least we're getting more engagement. But yeah, try to address everyone on there. It's very hard to answer these questions in short response, or a minute or two response. It's very hard because you have to try and connect pieces to other things, so it's hard. I know on one question I spent like 20 minutes on the reincarnation, so I apologize. I will upload the live for you. I see you, brother. I got you. I'll upload it. I'm gonna have to go back though and hear if I can hear myself in the bathroom over there, because if so, then I don't know. That wasn't my intention. Thanks to everyone who engaged on here today. Thanks to everyone who commented and shared, liked, donated. Thank you, everyone. Most likely I'll be on tomorrow. See what it brings though. Yeah, if anyone has any questions after this, feel free to comment and I will address them on the beginning of next video. All right. Thank you.